Graham, good morning. I am delighted to welcome you to this week's Q&A. Thank you for taking the time to join me.
Thanks for the invite, Susie.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure. So by way of quick introduction before we go through the questions. So for those watching this, Graham is a highly regarded Chief Marketing Officer, most recently with Greencore. He's also worked as an external advisor for Bain, and you've held some fabulous senior leadership roles for Aldi as well. So thrilled to have you here and really excited to hear your perspective on marketing as we go through the questions. So Graham, thank you. Let's get stuck in. So my first question is, what led you into a career in marketing in the first place?
Good question. I have to think back quite a while, Susie. But for me, it was a really engaging teacher, and it's a little bit of a cliche. But at GCSE time, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I had a fantastic business studies teacher, and she introduced the topics of marketing and showing my age, the 4 Ps as it was then. It's changed a lot now, and my ears pricked up, and it just seemed to make sense to me, and it just got me really excited. And then a bit later on, a bit more understanding the mix of creative, commercial, that ability to be kind of close to the customer, but still a fundamental part of the business. It just ticked a lot of boxes. And I think from very early on for me, that's what I wanted to do.
It's rather exciting. And I guess a big thanks to the teacher who inspired you all those years ago. And, you've mentioned a few of the elements of the marketing mix there as you've been kind of talking through. The marketing strategy and the brand strategy has definitely been an area where you excel at. It's a specialism where you've got deeply honed skills. What would you say excites you most about that strategic area within marketing?
Yeah, what I love about working on strategy and strategic projects, Susie, is that ability to step outside of the day-to-day, to really sit above the noise and look for ways to really drive a fundamental shift in business performance. And some of that is in the marketing arena, and some of it is in the general overall business, in terms of taking apart the design, the processes, the ways of working, the teams, the structures in some sense, and putting them back together in a way that can really help the business grow. And I think that ability, or that opportunity to step out of that day to day and really look at what the right reset button is for the business is really exciting. And, to be honest, sometimes at the end of the process, you can identify that you're doing most things right and it is only a minor tweak. And other times it's a fundamental change. Sometimes divestment, investment, it can fundamentally change what the business is doing and what your teams are doing within it. And that's really exciting. And I think the other thing, actually, for me personally, is working in that arena is a chance to work with some really bright people, and to really be personally challenged in the way that you think, in the way that you approach problems, the way that you kind of look at the world, and hopefully have some kind of personal growth along the way. So yeah, really, really enjoy all of that strategic work that I've had the chance to be involved in.
Really interesting. So you've just been mentioning about change with regards to strategy, and the last few years it's been an extraordinary time of change for all of our clients, but especially within your world of retail, food retail. How's customer behavior changed?
Yeah, I mean, look, what a time to be around, and what a time to be in retail, grocery retail, and kind of food, full of challenges. And there are many ways that COVID and the cost of living challenges have influenced consumer behaviour. The challenge for marketeers and for all businesses is to understand what are those short-term blips, what is a knee-jerk reaction to the environmental pressures, and what has more longer-term impact. So what are those things that are going to permanently change in consumers' minds, and kind of everything in between. And as consumers, we are creatures of habit. It's actually quite hard to change consumer behaviour, as marketeers can attest to. And the challenge is looking for those small changes that can over time have a huge impact on the products and services that consumers kind of buy into and use. And currently we are seeing a move to a focus on value, quite obviously, as people look to make their money go further. But we are also seeing behaviour changes. We are seeing people shifting between channels, whether that's online, offline, whether that's a discounter, whether that's on trade and off trade. We are seeing people change their spending habits and also remove some discretionary spend. And in some cases, spend that's traditionally been seen as essential, people taking those out of the weekly shop, which is a challenge. And again, within that, it's identifying what is just about going to happen now and what is going to happen more regularly and become a kind of permanent change. Some retailers like the discounters, this is an opportunity. This is a good time. They can grow share. The challenge for those retailers is how they can hang on to that share growth when the environment changes, when things start to normalise. And for other businesses and other retailers, it is about preparing now for the future. So yes, there are short-term things that need to be addressed, and some of those are, linked to survival for some businesses. How can they get through the next 12 months? But with that, there needs to be a focus on medium and longer-term planning. How do they position themselves for when the environment returns to some level of normality, as inflation eases, as the economy strengthens, and as importantly, consumer confidence returns? How can you be ready at that point to take advantage? And you can't wait till then. You need to plan and take a leap of faith in some areas. You need to do that now to be ready in 1 or 2 years' time to take advantage.
It's a really good point. So, on that note, what do you think will be the key priorities for the senior marketing leaders such as yourselves over the next few years?
Key priorities is always a challenge. You start with a list of 100, and it's really about how can you prioritise the priorities in terms of what needs to be done. But look, if I had to list a few, and there's probably 4 or 5 that I think should be top of mind. And the first one is no surprise. It's managing and protecting budgets. At times of fundamental change, at times of environmental pressures, the budgets will always come under pressure. And obviously, I'm quite precious about marketing budgets and how we defend them. But within that, really understanding, budgets that are allocated to things like brand building and brand protection and brand growth. How can you defend those? Because although it doesn't seem necessary right now and an easy place to go, obviously we all know the importance of that. And referring to what I was just talking about, any damage to brand equity now will be felt really hard when the environment changes and normalises. I think secondly, there's going to be a real focus on what does customer loyalty look like in the future. So I think as a priority, I think it'd be understanding that for the business, for your own businesses. What does customer loyalty and how do you build communities? Again, everyone can see what's happening in retail at the moment. The kind of transformation of the loyalty schemes, the link between loyalty and value, the locking consumers into spend by offering better prices if you are part of the loyalty scheme. I think really understanding what the customer loyalty dynamic means to your business is going to be critical. And I think within that, kind of understanding and harnessing new technology without getting lost in it. So, all the media excitement around AI, for example, there will be some huge opportunities in that in terms of what it can do for businesses. But I think the challenge for marketeers and a challenge strategically within business is how can we understand, adopt and use that technology to deliver against our priorities, not as a new toy to wave around. So how can we use AI to help us lower costs? How can we use the technology to help us drive customer loyalty? It's kind of how you use that technology in a way that benefits you, without getting lost in the detail of the latest shiny new thing. I think one of the challenges or priorities is really focusing on how to attract, develop and retain talent. Something relevant for your world, Suzie. And I think I scratch my head a lot about what hybrid working means for the future, in the teams that I build. We're going to have whole subsets of employers, whole parts of our workforce that have only known kind of hybrid and working from home. That's what they've understood as the norm. And how do you build that into a future model that captures the benefits of all of that and attracts the right talent, but also finds space for when you need collaboration, when you need in-person space? How do you build that together? So I think that building the right frameworks that don't return us to 5 days in the office, sat at your desk, because that's not the future. But equally, give the right level of kind of structure for how we maximise the benefits of both. So I think that talent thing is going to be really important.
Yeah.
And then the final one, which I've had responsibility for over a number of years, is sustainability. So what does sustainability mean for marketing leaders, and how does that fit within the wider business? You know, it's gone from an initiative to a fundamental, it needs to be a fundamental part of every business's DNA. And I think it's really important that as senior marketeers, we understand how that forms part of our day-to-day role going forwards, both in terms of what we do internally and how we are responsible for sustainability, but more importantly, what it means for our customers. So how are our consumers thinking and acting around the sustainability topic, and what does that mean for the products and services that we offer? You know, it's no surprise to see sustainability messaging becoming front and center of packaging and communications. And the challenge is how we make sure that is actually delivers on the promise and isn't just another promotional tactic, but it is a strategic element of how the business is positioning itself. And I think marketeers, that has to be a priority in order to not to get left behind in the future.
Wow, that was a brilliant and very, very detailed answer. And you might see a variation of that coming out as a piece of content from us in the next few weeks. That was fascinating. You're right. I mean, talk about priorities with the senior C-suite. They have an endless list of priorities, but those 5 key areas are very, very relevant. Thank you for that. So, looking back, what would you say in terms of career advice? What piece of career advice has been passed on to you that has stayed with you and served you well, that would help others starting out?
I'm always really careful with dishing out kind of generic advice, and I'd much rather sit down with individuals and understand what they're looking for, and then try and shape them. But I think there are a couple of things that stand out for me that have impacted impacted my career. And I think the first one, and there's a nice kind of phrase to go with this, is I always advise people to be positively curious within the businesses that they operate. So if you are a marketeer, for example, so my world, don't confine yourself to the boundaries of your team in the business. Make sure that you are building a network across the entire operation, and really go out of your way to understand, yes, the role that you play within your team, but also kind of every other part of the business. So kind of what makes up the product or the service cost, what are the main components, what are the processes that underpin the financial team, what are the processes that underpin the logistics team, really getting to know the nuts and bolts of the business, and ultimately things like what drives margin. So really understanding the value pots that sit in the different parts of your business, and that allows you to really take a view on where you want your career to go, because you might decide that actually you sit in team A now, but actually team B is really interesting and you want to learn more. But equally, I think the other thing that can work really well with that is it helps you to answer things from a different point of view. So if you're going in asking for £10,000 for a piece of activity, you can know in your mind, how many widgets do you need to sell to get that money back? And it starts to put a different kind of angle on those budget requests. So I think that positive curiosity outside of your team can really serve you well. And I think quickly the second thing, and something I'm really passionate about, is how you behave, how you lead and manage. And that's from day one. You don't have to wait until you have a team of 100 to put some of this stuff in practice. I was told early on, kind of lead how you would like to be led. Be that example, and treat everyone equally in a way that you give everyone that you come across in your business an equal amount of respect, from caretaker to CEO. And sometimes you will see that demonstrated really well, and there's some leaders out there that do it brilliantly. And other times, unfortunately, you will see people not demonstrating that. And I think you've got to decide early on which of those are you going to be, and then stick to that. And it's not something you can fake. This is you as an individual, acting in work how you want to be treat people how you want to be treated, and I don't think you can go far wrong with that. Always
good, solid advice.
Suzie, one of the bits that's just popped into mind actually, which is really important, and I do say this to a lot of junior marketeers, which is support your industry. And what I mean by that is that when you get a survey through the post or via the email of a service that you've partaken, fill it in. somebody, a marketeer somewhere has taken the time and has been involved in that. Don't just delete that email. Commit to it. Commit to the surveys, commit to the feedback, and commit to the industry that we're in as marketing. And do your best to respond, because next week that could be your piece of work that's landing on someone's desk.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and everyone's going to bombard you now with surveys. So, what's next for you then? The next 3, 5, 7 years? What's next for your career journey?
Yeah, I think for me, the next role I'll be looking to step into, ideally a kind of broader CMO role where I can add value from day one, but also be challenged. Some level of discomfort is always good for me. So I want to get in there and see what stretch is available. I'm actually keen to look outside my comfort zone. I've always been a little bit nervous of getting too comfortable in an area, and I've got some big pockets of time spent in certain industries across my CV. But for me now, it is about kind of can I find the right cultural fit that might be in an industry that I don't have the same level of experience in, but something that's new for me. And I've had some exciting conversations recently about roles that overlap to some of my skills and experience, but actually would definitely be a learning curve from day one. So I think for me, a little bit about breadth, a little bit about leadership, and a little bit about cultural fit. But I think excited about a new challenge. So something that is a little bit different for me personally.
Well, you're hugely talented, and I'm excited to be, to help support and follow your career journey over these next few years. So, Graham, thank you. Those were absolutely superb answers. I'm sure everyone will really enjoy listening to those. And thank you very, very much for your time joining me today.
No, thank you, Suzie. Appreciate the invite.